Dan Orlovsky, star is on the rise at the mothership, ESPN football analyst, former NFL quarterback. And you can check him out on Get Up with Mike Greenberg, Sports Center, NFL Live, and other programs. Best uniform you played in was what, Dan?
Ooh, played in. Definitely the creamsicle Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got to wear them once, and these were like the old school material too. So the comfort of them was atrocious, but the feel of, or like the look of them was awesome. Now this is when we stunk, so we probably got dragged by whoever we played. But the best one I played in is the Tampa Bay Buccaneer creamsicle or the Lions Thanksgiving Day throwbacks when it's just all blue jersey, all gray numbers, gray pants, and an all blue helmet. Those were the cleanest that I've worn myself.
All right, Dan, that's all we wanted from you. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
My best segment of the year.
Yeah, I was just talking about this, that the second most important position on the field is an edge rusher, in my opinion. So you have the quarterback and you have the edge rusher. I don't know if you agree or not, but I'll let you give me your opinion on that in a moment. Why is it nobody wants to trade up to get Chase Young? If he is a generational, once in a decade kind of pass rusher and the best player in the draft, I haven't heard one trade scenario to go up and get him. Why?
Yeah, I'd say number one, there are some people, and I've had conversations with guys about this, that do believe he went ghost the last 3 games of the year, that he was minimized and shut down, and especially in the Clemson game, people point to that. I disagree with that point. I actually thought the teams that played them down the stretch were conscious of him and getting the ball out of their hands way quicker than normal. I think there's the reality that I don't think there's any chance Washington trades the pick. I just don't. I mean, Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio there. Washington's defensive line is going to be a major problem because just as a quarterback makes everybody better, a dominant defensive lineman makes all those other defensive linemen better. And so now Montez Sweat is going to be better, and Payne's going to be better, and Jonathan Allen's going to be better because of the addition of Chase Young. So I don't think Washington would be willing to move from that pick. I would disagree with you on the edge rusher being more important than the interior rusher. 2 reasons. One, the usage of the field, the spread of the field. Coaches are much more aware that the football field is actually 53 1/3 yards wide and much more willing to use all of that space. And so now I always try to express it like this. Like, think of an offensive line, and traditionally over the last 30 years of the NFL, the offensive line is tackle to tackle for the most part. And that's probably a 6 or 7 yard wide space. And once the ball has traditionally been snapped because we weren't using space as much, the field wide, with the offensive line is like an accordion that gets shrunk. And so those pass rushers get closer and closer to the quarterback that are taking these 5 and 7 step drops and sitting in the pocket. Well, now coaches expand the offensive line more at the ball being snapped, whether it's the use of lateral play action, which is much more part of the NFL now than it used to be. The quick passing game and the screen game, the lateral run game is much more used than the downhill run game. And then the second thing is how quickly the ball gets out of quarterback's hands. I mean, we see the ball get out of quarterback's hands with the RPO game way faster than it used to be. When was the last time you saw a quarterback go under center and take a 7-step drop? Just traditional drop back, not a play action game. It's not part of the game as much anymore. And so the interior pass rusher, as close to the quarterback as possible person, is more valuable for me and in my experience than the edge rusher.
Yeah, I get that because that's why Aaron Donald is so valuable. He's disruptive in the middle, plus to get to the quarterback, he can get there quicker than the edge rusher can. And if you're taking less than 2.5 seconds, get rid of the football. Let's the closest distance between 2 dots here goes straight right at him. So I understand that. If you look at these drafts, and I've said this, it seems like every year I say the same thing. We build up a quarterback and then we tear him down as we get closer to the draft. So it's a roller coaster ride for these guys. Hey, this guy's unbelievable in March. Then all of a sudden in April, the guy's not a top 10 pick. So we didn't do it with Burrow. We did it. We're still doing it with Tua. Herbert, he's sort of on the rise now. Jordan Love got some attention there, but how do you sort this all out and understand what teams are thinking about these players?
Yeah, I don't really believe in ranking the quarterbacks like 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6. I look at them like, okay, what guys are in the best position trait-wise or skill set-wise to be bona fide stars, like to be guys that you can just count on for the next 15 years to be rock stars, no matter really who their coach is or who's around them skill set-wise. These guys are going to be great players. And it's Burrow and Tua. Those are the two players quarterback-wise in this draft. Like Joe Burrow, if you looked at the greats in the NFL over the last 20 years at that position, and you just kind of took away the first thing that pops in your head when you think about that player, Joe Burrow has it. Like, okay, Tom Brady, poise or clutchness, when Joe Burrow's got that. Drew Brees, accuracy, when Joe Burrow has that. Ben Roethlisberger, pocket movement. Joe Burrow's ridiculous at it. If you look at Russell Wilson, his instincts, Joe Burrow has all that stuff. These are things that, like, so many people overlook because they're really difficult to measure unless you've, really trained your eyes to see it. Joe Burrow's got all of that, like all of it. Tua is very similar in that regard. Like Tua's accuracy is the greatest attribute that he has. It's also the most important attribute physically a quarterback can have. And so his ability to get through progressions, I call it the most programmed quarterback in the draft, not robotic, but programmed. So those two guys are rock stars. They're going to be studs if healthy for Tua, obviously. Herbert, to me, is like my analogy has been like, when you go house shopping and you see this house, it's a beautiful home and it's got all the upgrades and it should sell really well, but it just sits on the market because every time you see the house, you go, man, something's wrong with that. It just doesn't feel right. And I kind of sent this tweet out the other day. Think of all the quarterbacks that we've talked about in the draft in the last 15, 20 years, that when the first two or three things out of people's mouth are he's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's got a powerful arm. Like, think of all those guys, and more often than not, those cats have failed. And I didn't say anything about that when it came to Brady, Russell Wilson, Breeze, Big Ben. I didn't say anything about that because that stuff doesn't matter. We look at quarterbacks the same way we look at all the other positions: big, strong, athletic, powerful. It should be the other way, the mental. And so that's what concerns me about Justin Herbert is like no one's going, man, he's got great instincts, or gosh, his accuracy is ridiculous, or he's just got this ability to make all these different kinds of throws. Those are all the things that people talk about, or like that I talk about, that he struggles with. And I just go, man, I would have a lot of concern about that because it's the most important physical attributes of the quarterback position. And then for Jordan Love, Jordan Love is the most intriguing probably guy because he does more stuff that you can't coach, more wow stuff. You go, man, I just can't coach that throw. I can't coach that throw. I kind of related to this. Patrick Mahomes, who he has been compared to, I don't see that, but Patrick Mahomes has this recess style of football where, like, he's the best kid on the playground and it's under control and he's just toying with people. And Jordan Love has a reckless style of football where it looks somewhat similar, but goodness, it's reckless. Yeah. And so, listen, if you can coach him up to be more recessed than reckless, then, yeah, you might have something to work with. But I'm not taking him until later in the first round.
I'm going to go with your analogy here with Justin Herbert. There's a house and there's a home. He might be a house as a quarterback where Joe Burrow or Tua could be a home, and there's a big difference in that. It looks great, but is it going to be a home? If the team, if you pass on Tua to take Justin Herbert, finish that sentence.
You're scared to be great. You're okay with trying to be mediocre.
But is it the fear of taking him or the fear of not taking him? Which one do you think is stronger in this draft with Tua?
The fear of taking him. And I said that in January. It's going to take courage to take Tua. Let's be honest. It's going to take courage to pass on Tua because this is the same guy that – and Kirk Herbstreit's great, right? Kirk Herbstreit is outstanding at what he does. And I think he's got a great feel and understanding of that spot, that position, college football. It's the same person, the same player that came into the national championship game, and Kirk Herbstreit on the broadcast said, Alabama's going to be okay. This kid is ridiculous. It's the same coach in Nick Saban, who we all say is one of the greatest coaches of all time, who decided to go to that player in that moment. And so if a team decides to draft Justin Herbert, it's just they are so scared that Tua is going to become hurt that they're willing to to chase mediocrity than greatness. They'd rather play it safe. And it's funny, I was just watching First Take, and Michael Jordan was talking about the Last Dance thing, and he was talking about in his first year he had an injury, and the doctors told him there's a 90% chance you won't get hurt, and there's a 10% chance that you'll get hurt and you'll end your career. And Jordan looked at him like, but I'm trying to be great. There's a 90% chance. There's a 90% chance that if you draft Tua Tagovailoa, you're going to become great as an organization. He's that stinking good. But if you want to bet on the 10% because you're scared, then that's on you.
And later that year in the playoffs, Jordan put 63 on the Celtics in the Garden.
Yeah, I just listen, and I brought this up. Okay, so look at the past 10 years in the NFL. Saints, you don't get great in the NFL without taking risks. The Saints went onside kick in the Super Bowl 10, 11 years ago. In the Super Bowl at halftime. The Eagles a couple years ago, as the number 1 seed, decided to go into the playoffs with a backup quarterback and ran a trick play on 4th and goal. The Chiefs traded up to get a quarterback from Texas Tech when they didn't need to. They had a veteran and were a playoff football team. The Ravens took a quarterback in Lamar Jackson that couldn't fit into the NFL. If you want to become a great championship caliber organization and you want to become great, you've got to take risks. You've got to take risks. And I just look at Tua and go, the quarterbacks are getting way more protected in the NFL than they are in college football, way more protected. And I think he has the brain to mature enough to realize I don't have to prove my toughness every single play. Get the ball out, and there's other plays to play, and I would take them.
Good stuff. Hey, it's great to talk to you. I'm happy for your success. You've done well, and you put in the work. And, maybe in a couple of months you come here to the Man Cave, and we'll teach you how to throw a football.
Well, listen, man, it's an absolute honor. I obviously grew up on you, so it's a privilege. I'm glad to be with you finally. I would love to come to the Man Cave. I can use all the help I can get.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate your time. Tell Greeny we said hello.
I will, bud. Be well.
That's Dan Orlovsky.